Hey folks, I'm getting ready to do a trapping video about dirt hole sets, which is a very common set that we use mostly for fox, some for coyotes, possibly for coon. But before we get to that, I want to ask you to go to the link below and look at the BMPs, or the best management practices for trapping, that have been put out by AFWA, the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, and its sister organization, the Wildlife Society, which are all of our wildlife biologists, scientists who work for these agencies. One of the most exhaustive, complete studies you'll ever find about BMPs, or best management practices related to trapping, are at that link below. So no matter the species, no matter whether it's body grip traps, leg hold traps, no matter where you're at, these BMPs are not only important for you, going to help you be a better trapper, but they're really important for the future of trapping. So follow along. We're going to go do a dirt hole set here. Hopefully you learned something from it. Today I want to talk about probably the most fundamental set you will make if you're trapping canines. Mostly red fox, gray fox, coyotes. Some people will use a dirt hole set also for felines, cats, or coons. But most commonly you're going to see the dirt hole set for a canine, specifically red fox and coyote. I'm going to show you the very basics of it. You're going to realize that there's all kinds of variations of the dirt hole set, but I'm going to give you the basic idea and you'll be able to experiment and go from there. So the very first thing you need to think about is, where am I going to make this set? And you know that canines mostly hunt and feed and look for food with their nose. So if you know that you have a prevailing west wind, you want to find a travel route that is downwind of where you would want to make your set. Or in other words, you want to make your set upwind of the normal travel route. We all know travel routes are edges, cut lines, fence lines, old two tracks, whatever it is. The coyote, the fox, is going to be traveling certain areas doing their hunting, and you want to be not too far away from that so that the scent, the bait that we're going to put here, gets carried downwind to where the animal is traveling, and they're going to come and they're going to investigate. One of the very first decisions you'll have to make when you're doing a dirt hole set is, am I going to use a drag or am I going to use a stake? Well, you can see behind me here, there's not a lot of cover, so that if I used a drag, that animal could go for a long ways before I recover it. So on this trap, you're going to see I have a stake. It's a stake that I'll drive into the ground. It's got a swivel. Everything is all set up. So when I come here, I'm going to put this trap, this set, slightly into the grass here so that from a distance, nobody will be able to see this coyote if he's in this trap. So this here is a double coil. It is a coyote trap, and you can see it's got the offset jaws. And I've got my pan tension already adjusted. I've waxed, boiled, dyed, everything. These traps have hung. They're ready to go. Now, if I was targeting mostly red fox rather than coyote, I'd use a smaller trap and I'd have my pan tension set a little different. So here's the basics of the dirt hole set. You have some backstop items so that the coyote or fox can't come from behind. You want a way to have to funnel them to the front. In other words, where you're going to set your trap. You dig a hole at the base of this obstruction. It could be a log, could be some rocks, could be a big tall shrub. It's something to force the fox or coyote to come in this direction. You dig a hole down here where you're going to put your bait. You're going to put your trap out here in front. The idea is the coyote or the fox is going to come this direction. They're going to be looking, smelling. They know something smelly, something maybe tasty is in that hole. And they're going to come up and they're going to look. And when they do that, they're going to put their paw on the pan of your trap. A couple things you'll want to have is you'll want a good sod buster, something that can get into there and just tear that up. You want a hammer to drive your stake, and you want a little trowel to dig your dirt hole. And that's this, you'll see this is a very important tool. You want to filter, obviously you want your trap. I've got two varieties of pan covers here to show you. And for me, I like a little kneeling pad. You can see this is just a gardener's pad for two reasons. One, it's easier on your knee, and also it doesn't get my human odor at the set. Understand, right? Canines, we always say, are the hardest animals to catch because scent is so critical. That's why you have to be so much more careful than with water sets. You have to be scent free. That's why you boil, dye, and wax your traps. You let them hang. And when you come here, you wear some sort of rubberized glove. You do whatever to make sure that you are not getting human scent on this set. Because what will happen, the coyote or fox will come up here, and if they smell human scent, it's unnatural. They're not going to walk up here like they naturally do. They're going to walk up here and start sniffing and scratching because they think that a human's been here. So now that I've decided I'm going to make this set slightly into the grass, now the question becomes, all right, how do I orient this set? In other words, do I face it north? Do I face it east? Do I face it south? What do I do? Well, for me, my preference, I can't always do this, but my preference, because I live in a cold northern climate, is to have it facing somewhat south. Because that way during the day, I'm going to get the full exposure. It's going to keep the ground drier. Whereas if I'm over on the north side, I'm not going to get the sun during the day, and it's not going to let that ground dry out if you get a little bit of moisture. And we'll talk about why that's so important. Some people will ask, how deep do you dig your hole? Again, ask 20 people, you'll get 25 answers. I'm usually looking for something about 5 or 6 inches deep. Just something deep enough that when I put my bait in there, the coyote or the fox has to come closer and check it out. So, there we go. We've got a hole pretty well dug in here. When I drop my bait down there, he's going to have to come pretty close to look down in there and see what's there. So now you have to think about this if you're trapping fox or if you're trapping coyotes, because a red fox is smaller. They're going to come closer. Their neck is not as long, so they're going to set their foot closer than a coyote will. So you'll have people say, well, if I'm setting red fox, I want 6 to 8 inches from the hole to where my trap's going to be. If I'm trapping coyotes, I want to be 10 to 12 inches. And again, ask 20 trappers, you're going to get 25 different answers about what they do. I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm looking for about 12 inches from the hole, 10 to 12. So I'm going to bust out all of this dirt here because I got to build the trap bed. Take all the dirt and put it somewhere because you're going to need it. I'm going to show you in a little bit here how you're going to need all this. If I was using a trap with a drag on it instead of a stake, I'd have to dig this trap bed really deep so that I could bury my drag underneath the trap. Because I'm using a stake, I don't have to go quite as deep. Now what I'm trying to do here is leave some of this natural vegetation that is going to act like its own funnel. The coyote's going to come in here, or red fox, and they're going to come right through this gap. They prefer not to step on that or step on this. So part of my idea here is to keep what natural obstructions that I can, and then in the process force this coyote or this fox to come through right here. Okay, so for the purposes of this video, I'm not staking it down, but if this trap was staked down, okay, where do I want that? Yeah, right about there. I'm gonna have to move some more because I'm a left foot guy. I like to force them to come in with their left foot. And some people are right foot guys. Sometimes I'll do it opposite, but seeing how this hole is angled and how the approach is, I'm probably gonna be more of a left foot guy here. Chisel away some of this. What I'm gonna have to do next, assuming that my stake was already in the ground, I gotta build a really solid and flat level bedding surface for my trap. You need to build one spot or dig out one spot. It is a little bit deeper because you're gonna be burying your chain, your stake, your swivel underneath all that. So you have to bury that, and then you'd come back behind and fill it in. And you need something to bury all that chain, that cable, that swivel, so that it's not over here where he would step on it. So, okay, you'll notice that I'm thinking that the coyote's coming in this way. And I'm about 12 inches, 14 inches from that hole. Now, I'm gonna build this up a little bit because I don't like my platform, my trap presentation area to be a lot lower. I want it to be closer in elevation to what the coyote feels when they walk up to this. And one of the things I like is to find the driest dirt possible, because one of your enemies in this process is moisture. And I'm going to talk about that shortly, about why moisture is such a problem. Well, we all know that if you have any type of moisture on a metal surface and it gets cold, that moisture comes and starts forming ice and frost around that metal surface. And this is just to make sure that I don't get any big rocks or chunks in there that are really hard to balance from. Okay, that's getting close. Still want it up a little higher so that from here to here, my trap is somewhat close. Now, what a lot of people would do, especially in cold climates, they would bring waxed dirt to put in this trap base. And the reason is, the waxed dirt does not have any moisture in it. So if you think about this, your trap, it's cold, it's 20 degrees. The moisture coming out of the soil is gonna attach itself to either your trap or to the dirt on the surface. You want that moisture to be able to get out of there, or you create a barrier. So here's another way to create a barrier. These are, some call them pan covers, but you can also use them as a moisture barrier underneath your trap. So you put that under there. Now you know that the moisture is not going to get to the springs in your trap. And you'll see times, you'll make this mistake, trust me, I still make it, where the canine comes up here and you see their print right there. It's like, how did I not catch that thing? Well, the odds are I probably had moisture introduced to the equation and it froze my set. You'll hear a lot of trappers talk about, oh yeah, I had a frozen set. What it is moisture comes out of the ground and it gets cold at night and it creates almost like a crust, almost like ice, frozen dirt. And the canine comes and it's like, oh man, and they don't even get caught. So to the extent you can, And there's a lot of tricks of how to do it. Wax dirt. Some people will take a spray of part glycerin, part water, because glycerin has a very low freezing point, and they spray that on the trap bed. That keeps your dirt from freezing. The last thing you'd ever want is to start filtering dirt in here and have it fill in underneath your pan, because otherwise the coyote or the fox comes, and if there's dirt under there, they're never going to be able to trigger the trap. So that's what pan covers are for. They keep any type of debris from getting underneath your pan. Now, some people will cut a notch right here for the trigger. I just pull it forward enough that I know, okay, we're good. So now when I start filtering and putting the dirt back in here, it's not going to get underneath my pan, because I want this trap to go off. Take some of this dirt that I dug up here originally. One thing that I did is I marked right here at the end of this grass is where my pan is right there. So you see I'm starting to level it off, because I want this coyote to come in here and put his foot right there. And one of the things sometimes I'll do, I'll use some of the stuff that I've dug up to make sure that this coyote isn't going to come and step here, he's going to step there. Well, there's little tricks that you learn about how to make him do that. Well, they don't like to step on a high point, okay? So how do I get him to step right there? Well, I kind of create a natural place for him to want to put his foot. So he's going to come here, he's like, oh, that's kind of rocky right there. Boy, that looks like a good place to put my paw while I come and check this out. So my trap is right there. I'm gonna go get a little more dirt because I want this to look as natural as possible. I know that probably looks a little bit overly constraining to a coyote, but by the time I get done shaking a little bit more dirt around there, it won't bother him at all. So I know right there's my spot. I'm gonna go get some more dirt, and I'm just gonna start making this look like a gopher or something was here just kicking up dirt, right? That's what we're trying to replicate. As a coyote approaches this, his spot to step is right here where that pan is. I've got a little bit of unlevel stuff here, a little bit of a rock. It's pretty rocky there. This is that nice, perfect level spot where he's gonna wanna step right there. So now comes the stinky part. I have a separate pair of gloves that I use for my baits, because if you end up with stinky, smelly baits on your trap or on the trap bed, the coyote's gonna come and dig that, and they're probably gonna dig your trap out rather than get caught in it. So the idea is you want the coyote or the fox to dig where the hole is, not where your trap is. So here we go, paste bait. So this is really, really pungent. What I do, and I always keep a stick in here. I'll dig a big wad of that and I'll put it in the back of this hole. Take a good dose of that and put it down in that hole. Oh, whew. Boy, that's working. That's what you want. Now when the coyote or fox comes walking up here, they're gonna smell that and say, I wonder what that is. Now here, this is a personal choice again. Usually I keep fox or coyote urine in this bottle, and I'll just spray a little bit of it around the base of that bush. Why? What does every fox or canine do when they walk up to a bush that they think is theirs? They squat or they lift their leg and pff. So I don't have any in here, but I just do a little bit of that. And then I would look at, okay, where is my long distance call lure? Oh yeah, here's coyote call lure. So what this is going to do, this is the stuff that, let's say that the coyote is walking this little knoll right here, or there's a cut line back there, and the wind is going that way. This long distance call lure is what he's gonna smell. When he goes walking north, the wind's coming from the west, he's gonna be like, ooh, what's that? I gotta come check that out. So your call lure is to get the coyote to come check this out. Your pace bait is to actually get him to approach your trap and do what you want him to do. So I would put some of this, again, back behind there. If I had a fence post, I like to put it on the top of the fence post because then it's up high and the wind is dispersing it. So some people have different approaches, different preferences in their baits and their selection and what they use. There are some people who don't use any urine. There are some people who will only use the pace bait. Whatever works for you. But we're pretty close to done here. I want to just kind of go over in summary what we've done to make a dirt hole set. We came here, we picked a location based on where we know a travel route is, and we moved our location, our set, relative to a spot that would be upwind of the travel corridor. When we got here, we said, all right, let's make some sort of backing so that the coyote or fox can't come in from this direction. They've got to come from this direction. Then we dug our hole and we dug it almost vertical. We didn't want to dig it at a very slanted angle because then the coyote or fox can stand way back here. Now we've decided, okay, based on what we have here, this is going to be a coyote set, so I'm going to want to be right here, about a foot away from that hole, because a coyote has a long neck and nose. He can stand back here. Now if he was a short little red fox, he'd have to get up here, so I would have moved my trap closer. Then I dug a trap bed. You notice how much attention I paid to making sure that trap will not wobble. Because if he walks up here and there's any wobble to this, he's gone. And prior to this, I spent the whole summer boiling my traps, dyeing them, waxing them, letting them hang, because I don't want any human scent where when this coyote or fox comes up here, they have reason to dig because they smell something human. Whether it's rust, whether it's, okay, I did something wrong, I introduced human scent in some way. So I put my trap bed in there. I put a barrier underneath it to keep moisture from getting to my trap. I've oriented it mostly south so that the heat of the day, if moisture does come out at night, the heat of the day will evaporate or at least dry out most of this soil. I've also found soil that is more sandy, less loam. It will get drier. It will get the moisture out of there easier. And then the whole approach is, all right, how do I not let that coyote step here, but force him to step here? Or if it was a red fox. Well, I've put some uneven surfaces here. I've left some of the natural vegetation. Sometimes I'll even bend that over. Just little things. It doesn't take much for a very selective animal like a coyote or a fox to say, all right, I like this natural path right here. That's the way I'm coming in. I'm going to do it that way. And then I made sure that I had nothing in the way of my pan. So you saw me put the pan cover on there so that that pan can depress when this coyote comes and steps on it. So to finish it off, you try to make it look like a gopher, a groundhog, some sort of rodent that they want to eat has come here, dug this hole, made this whole display right here. And the coyote's like, I smell something. Let me walk over there. And they put their paw right there and they get caught. That's a dirt hole set. It's the most common set you will use for red fox, probably half the time for coyotes. There's a ton of other sets. And if you brought 5 other trappers out here, they would use a different variation of this dirt hole set. Some would want a great big hole for coyotes. Some would want a much bigger backing. For this, I'm very comfortable that if a coyote came walking through here, he's gonna walk around this and he's gonna see this as his approach angle, and he's gonna step right there and I'm gonna catch him. Let's see if that works. I'm about ready to get a face full of dirt here. Where'd I put my pan? I didn't get a face full of dirt, but that's what would happen. You see, I wanted that coyote to step right there. And if he did, that's what I would have. Thanks for watching.